I overheard my wife rehearsing her divorce. A whole speech, practiced out loud like it was theater. He'll whimper like a wounded puppy, apologize, and sign like a good little errand boy. That's what she said, word for word. So I filed first, and I serve her papers at her company's award ceremony. Hey, read it. I figure it's finally time to tell this story. The wild ride I went through not too long ago. I thought I had the perfect life. Solid relationship. Everything steady. On track. But behind my back, my wife was busy plotting her exit with a guy from work. And me? I wasn't about to play the role of the clueless husband she had scripted for me. So I flipped the script, stayed 10 steps ahead, and made sure the story played out on my terms. It's crazy how fast life can change, sometimes without warning. For me, it didn't start with a fight. It wasn't catching her sneaking in late, or finding a text she forgot to delete. No, it was just an ordinary night. I'm Jackson, 31, married to Monica, 29, and I was walking down the hallway when I heard her voice coming from the office. Now, Monica doesn't laugh much around me these days. Not really. So when I heard her laughing, I slowed down, and it wasn't the kind of laugh you give someone you love. It was sharp, mean, the kind of laugh people use when they're mocking someone who isn't in the room. I stopped by the door, not barging in, not snooping, just listening. Call it instinct. You live with someone long enough, you know when something's off. And in that moment, I knew. Then I heard the words, clear as day. It's all lining up. I'll wait for the July bonus, then file. He'll whimper like a wounded puppy, apologize, and sign like a good little errand boy. Men like him always do. They're too scared to be alone. And then came another laugh. Jane, her cousin. I'd recognize her voice anywhere. The same Jane who never liked me, who once told Monica right in front of me that I looked like the type of guy who would stay loyal forever because nobody else would want me. Back then, I brushed it off. But hearing her laugh now, while my wife plotted my downfall, made every hair on my neck stand up. I didn't move. I didn't interrupt. I just let their words sink in, not because I was frozen, but because I wanted to hear the whole plan. If she thought I was going to collapse like some pathetic fool, she had no idea who she was really married to. They laughed again, longer this time, like they were celebrating. That was all I needed. I didn't slam the door open. I didn't show my hand. I turned around, walked back down the hall, and shut the bedroom door quietly behind me. My heart wasn't racing. It wasn't fear. It was focus. Pure, locked-in focus. Because what I just heard wasn't a slip of the tongue. It was strategy, timing, bullet points, a whole playbook built on the assumption that I'd break the second she pulled the trigger. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at the wall, running her words over and over. Why July? Why wait for the bonus? What else was she lining up behind my back? She came to bed around midnight, kissed me on the cheek like everything was normal, switched off the lamp, rolled over, business as usual. She had no idea I already knew. I didn't sleep, not a second. I just laid there, listening to her breathing, her words playing in my head on a loop. He'll whimper, apologize, and sign like a good little errand boy. And what cut the deepest wasn't the betrayal. It was her certainty. She believed it. She wasn't saying maybe. She was predicting my downfall like she'd already lived it. She thought she had me nailed down to the exact reaction. But lying there in the dark, something inside me shifted. Not loud, not dramatic, just clean. 12 hours earlier, I would have told you I loved her more than anything. But now, nothing. No sadness, no rage, just nothing. That was the turning point. That was the night my marriage ended in every way that mattered. And it was also the start of something new, me taking control. The next morning felt different, not because anything around me had changed, but because I had. Once you hear your wife casually planning your downfall, you can't unhear it. You don't look at her the same way ever again. She texted me around lunch, little smiley faces, like everything was fine. But I didn't read them like I used to. Every word, every action. Now I filtered it through what I'd heard the night before. And suddenly, All the little things I'd brushed off over the past year came rushing back. The sudden girls' nights. Monica had always been social, sure, but these weren't the same. They were last minute, vague, no details. She'd throw on a dress, grab her purse, and be out the door before I could ask who she was meeting. And when she came back, she smelled different. Perfume I didn't recognize, like she'd showered somewhere else. I told myself not to overthink it. I gave her space. I let it slide. Then there was the money. She's the one who pushed to combine our accounts. Said it would make tax time easier, more transparent. I thought, sure, that's trust, right? But then little amounts started disappearing. 300 here, 600 there, always with a quick excuse. Annual renewals, bills, subscriptions. I wasn't the type to comb through receipts. So I let that slide, too. But now it was clear. It wasn't random. It was all part of the same pattern. The exit plan. The playbook. She thought she could run right under my nose. And the cruelest part wasn't just the betrayal itself. It was the way she laughed about it. That smug certainty in her voice. She truly believed I was too weak, too predictable, too scared to fight back. She thought I'd crumble. She thought wrong. It wasn't just random spending. She was staging something. And the craziest part? I'd almost caught it months earlier, without even realizing it. 2 months back, I was scrolling through our joint account when I saw a jewelry store charge. Not small either, big enough to notice. My first thought was innocent. Maybe it was for me, an anniversary gift, or maybe something for her mom. But weeks passed and nothing appeared. No ring, no necklace, nothing. I asked her once, casually. She brushed it off, said it was some coworker's birthday, a group gift. I let it go. But that morning, standing in the kitchen with my coffee, it hit me. That charge, it wasn't for me. It wasn't for her mom. It was part of her other life. And the truth is, she'd been pulling away for a lot longer than I wanted to admit. I started replaying old moments like game footage. Every laugh, every excuse, every late night suddenly had a different meaning. The gaps in her stories weren't harmless anymore. They were cracks in the foundation. And I realized I'd been walking through a house that was already collapsing, with her swinging the hammer. But here's where she miscalculated. I wasn't about to sit quietly and wait for July, for her little deadline. If she thought she had me cornered, she was dead wrong. I didn't tip my hand. That's the key. You don't win by reacting too fast. You win by letting your opponent believe they still hold the reins. So I smiled, I nodded, I played along. By the end of that week, the fog in my head was gone. I wasn't confused anymore. I knew exactly what she was. I knew what she was planning. And I knew I had to stay 3 steps ahead. Suspicion wasn't enough. If you really want to win, you need more than gut feelings. You need evidence. Proof no one can deny. Monica wasn't just drifting away. She was calculating. If she'd gone that far, I had to go further. So I waited, patient, watching. No sloppy moves. No tells. My first chance came one night while she was in the shower. I slipped into the office and sat down at her laptop. I'd used it plenty of times before, back when things were good. She never cared. But now, the password had changed. Of course it had. I leaned back, thought it through. Monica was smart, but not creative with this kind of thing. Her patterns were predictable. Our dog's name, her college mascot, birthdays. I tried the first. Wrong. Second. No good. Third, click. I was in, on the surface. Her desktop looked normal. Spreadsheets. Budgets. Templates. Nothing out of place. But one folder stood out. Final Q2. I don't work in finance, but I know enough to recognize that wasn't just office files. I opened it. At first, it looked legit. Client reports, projections. But then I scrolled down and one file stopped me cold. Upgrade plan. A PDF. I clicked. The first page? A timeline. 2 neat columns. Before bonus and after bonus. Notes on maximizing her payout. A reminder. Wait until July to file. She was literally scheduling my blindsiding around her paycheck. The second page was worse. An asset breakdown. Everything we owned, split into tidy little boxes. Her side stacked high, mine stripped bare. My car, paid for with my money, on her list. Our joint savings, mostly hers. Even things that were clearly mine had notes beside them like, argue personal gift. And then came the third page. Draft emails. One already titled attorney. Ready to go at the push of a button. She had written out her version of events in advance. In her story, she was a victim. I was a spineless husband who wouldn't put up a fight. And there it was, the sentence that burned into me. He won't grow a spine. He never does. He'll cry a little, then cave. I read it 3 times. Not because I didn't get it, but because I wanted it seared into my brain. She wasn't just planning to leave me. She was betting on my weakness. Banking on me playing the part she'd already cast. That was her biggest mistake. I didn't slam the laptop. I didn't leave a trace. No screenshots, no dramatic messages. That's not how you win. I pulled a flash drive from my desk, copied the file quietly, and slipped it back exactly the way I found it. History cleared. Nothing out of place. By the time she stepped out of the shower, I was back in bed, scrolling through my phone like nothing happened. She had no idea. Lying there in the dark, I couldn't help but smirk. All this time, she thought she was a mastermind. But by underestimating me, she'd handed me her entire playbook. And once you know the game, everything changes. It wasn't panic anymore. It was chess. If she wanted to lie, timing mattered. If she was moving money, I needed to trace it. If she thought I wouldn't fight, she'd never see me coming. That night, in the silence beside her, I started planning my countermove. In my head, the plan started forming. Step 1, don't tip her off. Keep playing the husband she thinks she's manipulating. Step 2, gather everything. Not guesses, not suspicions. Documents, statements, trails. Step 3, strike first, strike smart, strike hard. It was almost darkly funny. She thought she was a mastermind, but the second I opened that file, the script flipped. She wasn't running the show anymore. I was. That night, I made myself a quiet promise. I wasn't going to be the man she wrote about in her notes. I wouldn't cry. I wouldn't beg. And I sure as hell wasn't going to sign whatever she shoved in front of me. She laid out her upgrade plan. I started writing mine, one designed to dismantle hers piece by piece. And the strange thing about knowing someone's planning against you, suddenly their mask is so obvious. The smartest move was to keep her convinced I was still that same blind, predictable husband she thought she could outsmart. At breakfast, I'd ask about her day like always, nod along while she rambled about deadlines. At night, I'd help cook dinner, make her laugh, kiss her goodnight. She had no clue I was cataloging everything, checking every word against what I already knew. Behind the curtain, I went to work. First came the documents. I pulled titles, tax returns, insurance papers, every file I could find, scanned them, stored them. While she thought I was dozing on the couch, I was uploading hundreds of pages into a hidden email account I'd built for this exact moment. Next, the finances. I pulled every bank statement I could get my hands on, highlighted withdrawals that didn't add up, cross-checked credit card charges with the dates she claimed to be on work trips. That's when I stumbled onto my credit report and almost laughed. 2 accounts I never opened, both tied to P.O. Box 2 cities over. Maxed out, and my name listed as an authorized user. She had added me without a word. That was the moment I realized her plan wasn't airtight. She was sloppy. She thought I'd never look. But paperwork wasn't enough. I needed eyes. Proof you couldn't argue with. That's when I called Hunter. Hunter was one of those old-school guys, ex-cop energy, the kind of man you take seriously the second he shakes your hand. He showed up in a beat-up sedan, chewing sunflower seeds like it was a second job. "So," he said, leaning back in his chair, "catch your wife sneaking around?" "Don't worry, I'm practically up 5 stars at that." I smirked. "It's more than that. She's planning something bigger. I need to know how deep it goes." Hunter popped another seed, grinning. "Ah, the deluxe package. The she's got spreadsheets and backup plans deal. Haven't had one of those in a while. Don't worry, I'll find your smoking gun. Or at least a cheap motel version of it. For the first time in weeks, I almost laughed. He clearly knew his work, but didn't take it so seriously that he'd spook me with paranoia. He was sharp, quiet, and efficient. 2 weeks minimum, he said, scribbling notes. 3 if she's slippery. You want daily updates or the grand reveal. Grand reveal? I told him. She can't suspect a thing. Hunter nodded. Smart. The dumb ones always rush in with half a story and get burned. You're playing chess, I can tell. Don't worry. When you get my report, she'll choke on it. With Hunter in motion, I doubled down on my act at home. Monica must have thought she was killing it, because suddenly she turned the charm back on. She came home early some nights, cooked dinner, even offered to rub my shoulders while I watched TV. One night, she looked straight at me and said, "You've been working out, haven't you?" I almost laughed. No, I hadn't. She was just laying it on thick, keeping me calm and pliant while she set up her perfect exit. I played along. Let her think she had me exactly where she wanted me. Good. That was the point. Because while she was busy staging fake vacations, I was building the case that would dismantle her entire strategy. Emails half deleted but archived elsewhere. Screenshots of Venmo transfers to names I'd never heard of. Charges for hotel bars that didn't line up with any conference she'd ever mentioned. I didn't react to any of it. I just documented, organized, built a timeline so clean it would be impossible to deny. And then, 2.5 weeks later, the call came. I was at work when my phone buzzed. Hunter's voice came through, calm and dry. You're going to want to sit down for this. Go ahead, I told him. I'll send the full report, but the short version? Your wife's got herself a finance bro's sidekick. Nick, tall, clean-cut, looks like the type who irons his socks. They've been checking into hotels together 4 times in the last 2 months. Always under his name. But guess who shows up in the photos? My jaw tightened, but my voice stayed calm. Send me everything. Hunter chuckled. Already did. Enjoy the slideshow. Oh! And just so, you know I got video. 2. Shot at myself from the bar patio. You're going to love this one. He paused and added, she tells Loverboy, and I quote, "You're just a placeholder. Nick, you're the future." For a second, I just stare at my phone. Not angry. Not broken. Just stunned. She thought I was a placeholder. She thought she was trading up. Appreciate it, Hunter. I said finally. No problem, he replied. Always nice working a case where the target makes it this easy. Heh, I just hired a skywriter to confess, I said and hung up. When Hunter's report hit my inbox, it wasn't some shaky proof. It was a highlight reel betrayal so obvious it felt surreal. Photos of Monica and Nick holding hands over a cafe table, hotel check-ins like clockwork, late-night slips into his car, and then the video, grainy, shot from the bar patio, Monica leaning into him, laughing, touching his arm, and those words crystal clear, "You're just a placeholder. Nick, you're the future." I must have replayed it 12 times. Not because I doubted it, but because each viewing landed differently. Placeholder. After everything I'd done, the nights covering her deadlines, the years of carrying more than my share, I was merely a warm-up act until something shinier came along. Oddly, I didn't feel explosive rage. I felt one thing, a cold, razor clarity. The switch had already flipped the night I overheard the plot. This just confirmed the verdict. She wasn't my wife anymore. She was a liability I needed to handle. So I called Kate. Kate Parker wasn't sentimental. She was a shark in a suit, the friend with a law degree who told you what actually worked. I laid it out. The overheard rehearsal, the upgrade plan file, the missing money, Hunter's dossier. She listened, slid her glasses up, and said exactly what I wanted to hear. Sloppy cheaters lose in court. If we file first, we control the narrative, lock the bonus, freeze the accounts, make the split clean and alimony free. She mapped out subpoenas and flags, highlighted hotel charges as marital fraud, and began drafting the filing while I sat there feeling lighter than I had in months. At home, I kept the act on. I smiled, asked about her day, compliment a fake vacation she loved to brag about, let her think she was 5 steps ahead. Meanwhile, Hunter slid the physical report across my kitchen table, like a verdict in an envelope. I almost feel bad for her, he said, shrugging. Almost. Same routine, same hotel, same idiot grin. She made this way too easy. He was right. I spread the photos, receipts, timelines, and that upgrade file across the table and laughed, soft, incredulous. You miscalculated, Monica. You forgot who you married. The next morning I called Kate. File it, I told her. Already ahead of you, she said. By the time she thinks to see a lawyer, we'll be halfway through. Music to my ears. Monica had planned to milk July for her bonus and dropped the bomb, but her calendar was gone, her timing erased. I didn't confront her. I didn't throw evidence on the table like some petulant man. I let her keep humming and smiling in her little bubble, because when the blow landed, in front of everyone she wanted to impress, it would be clean, surgical, and final. This wasn't about a scene. It was about execution. Cold, precise. She thought she was playing chess. She didn't know the game was already over. The timing couldn't have been sharper. Monica's company hosted their annual award ceremony every spring. Not some casual office gathering, but the event. Suits pressed, cameras flashing. Every employee posturing like they were one handshake away from promotion. And this year, Monica wasn't just attending. She was hosting. She'd been practicing her lines around the living room for weeks, pacing back and forth, rehearsing the perfect balance of professional but fun. And though she never said his name to me, Nick slipped into those rehearsals enough times to know he'd be up there too, shoulder to shoulder with her. That made it the perfect stage, not just a file, but to end her little fantasy in front of the exact crowd she lived to impress. Getting in was laughably easy. Years back, I'd built event templates for them, and apparently no one ever bothered to change the portal password. A couple of clicks, an RSVP under her guest list, print a badge, slip in a lanyard, and I was set. The package looked harmless, just a plain white bakery box tied with twine. Inside, copies of the divorce petition, Hunter's photos, hotel receipts, bank records, the entire playbook she thought was hidden. On top, taped neatly to heavy stationery, a note in my handwriting. You rehearsed the speech. I skipped to the ending. No need to whimper. I'm already gone. I parked a block away, walked in, and the lobby was buzzing. Employees and business casual, guests clutching name tags, the kind of nervous energy that fills a room before a spotlight moment. The receptionist barely glanced at my badge before waving me through. And there she was, Monica, center stage in a floral dress, microphone in hand, grinning like she'd already won. Nick hovered close, polished too close, like he'd already stepped into my role. She saw me instantly. For half a second, her smile faltered, but she snapped it back, probably assuming I was just there to play the doting husband one last time. I walked the center aisle, calm, deliberate, and set the box down beside the podium. The official service had already been delivered. This was theater. An encore designed to land in her spotlight. Early congratulations gift. I said loud enough for the front row to hear. Her knuckles whitened around the mic. Jackson, what are you? But I didn't answer. Just gave her a small smile and turned away. The whisper started before I'd even made it halfway back. Is that paperwork? Someone muttered. She's shaking, another whispered. Chairs creaked as people leaned forward, trying to see. I never looked back. I didn't need to. The silence behind me said enough. Her perfect night had just shattered. At the door, I caught someone whisper, Isn't that her husband? I smirked. Not for long. By the time I reached the parking lot, my phone was buzzing nonstop, her cell, her office line. Even her mother. I powered it down and tossed it in the glove box. Later that night, while Monica was probably still frozen in that ballroom, I had the locks changed. Her code, her garage pin, dead. A note taped to the front door in plain view. Access removed. Contact Kate Parker for everything. Then I drove to Drew's. He was by the grill, flipping steaks, and when I walked up, he took one look at me and said, You look lighter already. I just delivered the news. I told him. He raised an eyebrow, smirked. Clean. Cleaner than she ever expected. That weekend, she blew up my phone. I ignored every call. By Sunday night, she was pounding on Drew's door like she still had a claim. I stayed upstairs. Drew answered cool as ever, handed her a printed copy of her own upgrade plan, then shut the door in her face. She stood frozen, then stormed off. I didn't feel guilt, not 1 ounce. She wanted to blindside me, cut me out like a mark. Instead, she got ambushed with her own script. And the best part? No screaming, no public fight, no messy scene. Just clean execution. Truth delivered in a white box with a bow. By Monday morning, fallout was already spreading. HR had Nick under review. Monica was reassigned. Her colleagues weren't offending her. They'd seen the evidence. Her glossy image cracked in real time. And me? I was already gone. Out of the house. Lawyer pushing the paperwork. She thought she was orchestrating a game of chess. But the truth? She was just moving pawns on a board I'd already solved months ago. By the time she realized it, it was over, and when we finally sat in court, expecting her performance, tears, excuses, a victim's plea, she had nothing left, just hollow eyes and silence. Kate laid everything out for the judge like evidence in a museum case. Receipts, messages, the whole sordid timeline. 30 minutes later, it was done. I kept the house, the accounts untouched. She walked away with nothing. And me? I signed a lease across town. Fresh walls, no ghosts. She thought she'd broken me, but all she really did was free me. The judge barely blinked when Monica's lawyer tried one last swing at spousal support. Kate slid the evidence across the table, double-dipped expenses, company cards swiped for her side trips, and the judge almost laughed. Claim denied. The gavel hit like a period at the end of a long, messy sentence. Just like that, the chapter closed. But outside the courtroom, the fallout was louder than anything I could have scripted. HR kept digging after the potluck stunt, and Nick, the so-called prize she threw it all away for, was the first to crumble. A neat little resignation for personal reasons. But everyone knew what it meant. He'd been caught with his hand in the company till and bolted before they could fire him. Monica wasn't as lucky. They didn't fire her, but they stripped her of the spotlight. 1 month she was center stage, running events with a microphone in hand, and the next she was tucked away in a corner, cubicle nobody even noticed. Her co-workers whispered about the bakery box. Screenshots floated around. To them, she wasn't the ambitious manager anymore. She was a woman whose husband tortured career night in front of everyone. Meanwhile, I was settling into a place of my own. No memories, no stage smiles on the walls, just clean space that actually felt like mine. Drew and Hunter came by the first weekend to help set it up. Hunter spotted my old stash of decorative pillows and laughed. Man, you live with her too long. Alpha dudes don't do throw pillows. Drew piled on, cracking up like it was the best joke of the night. I tossed them in the donation pile, without hesitation. That apartment became proof. Proof that I didn't just cut her out. I built something better without her. Sleek couch, a gaming setup in the corner, desk by the window. For the first time in years, I could breathe without feeling like someone was rehearsing lies in the background. Word about Monica trickled back to me through mutual friends. They said she floated around work like a ghost, avoiding eye contact with the same people she once bragged to. I didn't care. Not my problem anymore. She lit the match. Now she had to walk barefoot through the ashes. Hunter, of course, had to deliver his version of the highlight reel. One night over pizza, he shook his head mid-bite and said, "She thought you were the pawn, man. You didn't just flip the board. You walked off with all the pieces." He chuckled like he was calling a game-winning play, and I couldn't argue. He was right. Monica once cast herself as the star of some grand performance. Nick as a lover, me as the clueless husband. She thought she could rehearse her new life in secret, step into it clean. But I never gave her the ending she wanted. No tears, no begging, no messy fights. I let her believe in her fantasy right up until the curtain dropped. And when it dropped hard. Papers instead of plates, timing instead of tantrums. She rehearsed her speech. I skipped to the ending. By the time she realized, the theater was empty, the lights were out, and the audience had already gone home. I didn't walk out of it a hero. I didn't need to. I walked out clean, free. And Monica, she wakes up every morning knowing she lost a job, the lover, the reputation, and the husband who refused to play his part in her script. That's a punishment that lasts. That night, I leaned back on my new couch, control on the table, silence all around, and it hit me. There was nothing left to fix. No loose ends. No lies waiting to surface. Just freedom. She thought I'd end up crying, signing whatever she wanted. Instead, I walked away sharper, lighter, and without a single tear.